Hi everybody, I'm Ryan. Today we're going to talk about 8-cast in Legacy. We're going to do a deck tech on it where we explain the card choices, the overall strategy of the deck, and the play patterns of the deck. Without further ado, let's jump into it. So this is 8-cast. It is effectively the artifacts deck in Legacy. And there's a couple different synergies and pseudo combos going on, and I'm going to do my best to kind of explain them all. First off, we are playing the artifact lands and some islands, some Ottawaras just for utility. But this is definitely an Ancient Tomb deck. We are able to play Ancient Tomb because a lot of our cards are artifacts. We really want to be playing these powerful 3-mana spells as early as turn 1 with Lotus Petal, sometimes on turn 2. And we're playing Urza Saga. Urza Saga, extremely powerful card. Being able to create constructs, up to 2 constructs if you upkeep it before when the 3rd chapter is on the stack, and you're able to kind of tutor your deck for a bunch of cards. Well, let's talk about the strategy of the deck. The strategy of the deck is to value with artifacts, right? We have cards like Thought Cast that has affinity for artifacts. Often we can cast this for 1, or we can draw 2 cards. But the main combo of the deck is centered around Emry. Emry is the 3-mana 1/2. It says this spell costs 1 less to cast for each artifact you control. It's very easy to cast this on turn 1 with all of our 0-cost artifacts just by playing a blue source on turn 1. When it enters the battlefield, mill 4 cards, and you can tap it to choose an artifact in your graveyard. You may cast that card this turn. So there's a really cool loop you can do. Specifically with Urza's Bauble or Misha's Bauble. Urza's Bauble, 0-cost artifact is a sacrifice. Look at a card at random from target player's hand. You may draw a card at the beginning of the next turn's upkeep. Misha's Bauble is the same thing, except you look at the top card of their library. So by casting one of these cards from the graveyard and then popping it, it effectively allows you to draw 2 cards every turn. Just one of the cards is during your opponent's upkeep, which is very, very powerful in the context of the rest of this deck. Additional artifacts that you can cast are things like Mox Opal and Lotus Petal just to ramp up and be able to do this a lot earlier. We are playing 2 Sai. Sai is a 1/4 for 3. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying. And you can pay 2 mana to sacrifice 2 artifacts and draw a card. So we have a lot of 0-cost artifacts. That's really awesome. But also Thought Monitor is an artifact, Chalice of the Void is an artifact. And maybe the biggest, coolest thing you can do is have a Sai on the battlefield. And notice Emry says tap it to cast the card this turn. So even if you cast it for 0 from your graveyard, that is still casting it, and you can just have a Thopter every single turn no matter what, ignoring the cards in your hand and ignoring that you're drawing multiple cards a turn, and you're definitely going to draw more artifacts, which is really, 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 really cool. In addition, so I would say that Thought Monitor is under the same sense as Thoughtcast, but is an artifact, so it can do a bunch of these other cool stuff, like with Sai and Emry. One of the coolest plays is being able to cast Thought Monitor from the graveyard with Emry, which is just disgusting. It's a 2/2 flyer with affinity for artifacts, and when it enters the battlefield, draw 2 cards. Very often you can cast this for 0 or for very, very cheap. And then the big haymaker finisher in the deck is Kappa Cannoneer, being a 6-mana 4/4 with Improvise, so your artifacts can help cast a spell. Each artifact you tap after you're done activating mana abilities pays for 1, so it's kind of like Convoke, but for artifacts. Has Ward 4, so it's just so hard to kill in Legacy. And whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Kappa Cannoneer, and it can't be blocked this turn. So notice this says whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, that counts itself. So really it's a 5/5 for 6. The can't be blocked doesn't matter because summoning sickness or whatever, but does matter later on. And so similar to Sai, there's a combo here with Emry, right? Being able to just bring back a 0-cost artifact to make it so this thing can't be blocked and it gets bigger, jam in. Next turn, bring back a 0-cost artifact to draw 2 cards. This thing can't be bigger, jam in. It's just super, super powerful alongside Kappa Cannoneer and Sai, and you're drawing a ridiculous amount of cards between Thoughtcast, Thought Monitor, and the Emry loop with Misha's Bauble or Urza's Bauble. And you get to do this super, super early in the game. In addition, this is also a Chalice of the Void deck. I mean, obviously that's a big reason why we are playing Ancient Tomb. Being able to play Chalice of the Void, Chalice for 1 on turn 1 with Ancient Tomb is a disgusting combo and can lead to us just winning games against Delver. And on top of all of that, we're a Force of Will deck, so we can kind of make sure that we don't die to ridiculous combos. We also have Force of Negations in our sideboard, which we'll talk about in just a second. And we can toolbox our deck with Urza Saga. So the 3rd chapter of Urza Saga, search our library for an artifact card with mana value cost 1 or less, put on the battlefield, then shuffle. So obviously, if we need mana, we can grab a Mox Opal. Or if we're really strapped, Lotus Petal. Or if we really need to draw cards or we want to start with the Emry loop, we can grab Urza's Bauble, or really Misha's Bauble is a slightly better one. Or on top of all of that, we have other ways that we can do this. So we have Aether Spellbond if we really need to return things, in order to like live or get things out of the way. We have Pithy Needle. Pithy Needle is like obvious, very obvious uses, if there's something that you need to stop activating their abilities. And then Shadow Spear is mostly for if we are on the constructs plan. So, we have all of these like cool combos with Psy and Kappa Cannoneer and maybe Nickel and Diamond with Thought Monitor. But really, like the secondary win condition is these constructs from Urza Saga. Being able to make a construct that gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control. If we are on that plan, then grabbing Shadow Spear is probably the correct thing because these are big artifacts. You need to make it so that your artifacts have trample, makes them slightly bigger. It is just like really, really solid. Also fine against, when your life total's low as well. So those are the combos within the 8-cast deck. Again, it's just an artifact super value deck. It is so fun. As far as Sideboard goes, we're playing Urkel's Recall. Good for artifact stuff. I don't think I need to explain that too much more. We're playing 4 Force of Negation. In addition to the Force of Will, these are for combo decks. We want to make sure we don't just die to silly, stupid combos. Remember, this deck is looking to grind. This deck is looking to outvalue. And in these grindy outvalue decks, it's really important that we don't just die before we start actually outvaluing. I'm playing Plague Engineer. Choose creature type, creature the chosen type, your opponent control get -1/-1. This is really solid against Delver, but there are other applications as well. Really, if there's anything that is an X1 that you're really worried about, specifically, I think Plague Engineer gets a lot more stock now with Orcish Bowmasters, especially since we're drawing 1,000,000 cards now. Playing 3 Dismember. Notice we don't have a lot of removal, but if they're creatures we care about, we bring in these Dismembers. Tormod's Crypt is solid as a 0-cost artifact that, remember, can recur with Emery against his reanimated decks or anything else that might matter. Similar with Grafdigger's Cage. Grafdigger's Cage also very good against like the Green Suns decks and things like that. Haywire Might for our artifact or enchantment. Hey, Soul Guide Lantern again for like kind of like a Tormod's Crypt that we can be drawing cards off of, similar to Emery. And then Torpor Orb, the entering the battlefield stuff, especially if it's a part of a combo, being able to stop that is super important. Again, it's important these are all artifacts, especially there's extra stock with these artifacts being one or less because we can tutor them out with Urza Saga, which is very, very solid. So that is 8-cast in Legacy. It is a super value deck. It is with so much synergy surrounding artifacts. I really enjoy playing it, and I hope you do too. If you like this video and want to see more videos like this, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on social medias. Links are above me and in the description, especially on Twitch where I stream most days. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.